Hello and welcome to Esri Maps for Public Policy. A policy map is a map that shows the opportunity to intervene very clearly, and this site is full of hundreds of maps that do just that. We've got all kinds of topics from veterans to at-risk populations, commutes, population growth and decline, transit, etc. Let's explore Los Angeles, California. And say we're interested in education. This site is already generating a starter collection of maps that it thinks we might be interested in. The first one here is where are people who started college but didn't finish? Notice that the question that is the map title is different from what's in the legend. The legend is a more detailed definition of what we're mapping, but the question is what we're really trying to address. So these places are where adults have some college, but they just didn't get that degree. So these would be prime locations for programs such as degree completion efforts and reverse transfer programs and things like that. So the opportunity to intervene is very clear. The next map in our collection here is where are disconnected youth? Again, the question that is the map title is not the same as what's in the legend. The legend tells us more detail. It's kids who are not in school and not in the workforce. Clicking on the map, we get even more information. In this census tract, we can see that it's mostly males who are disconnected youth, whereas in the neighboring census tract, it's mostly females. Let's say I want to browse this site and see all the other maps that are available to me, not just these 5. We can look at the topics and subtopics here, and let's stick with education. We get 32 maps on all kinds of topics, from teen employment rate to student loan balances, children eligible for free and reduced price lunch, and predominant highest education level in the U.S. Let's view this map. This site remains zoomed into Los Angeles, and it gives us this predominance map, where each color represents the most common education level of adults in those census tracts. So in Santa Ana here in Orange County, we see that it's predominantly less than high school, whereas in neighboring Irvine, it's predominantly bachelor's degree or higher. I like this map, so I'm going to add it to my collection. And you can see here that we now have a collection of 6 maps, all zoomed into our area of interest. So back up to my collection, I'm going to remove some other ones so that only these 3 that I looked at are in my collection now. I'm signed into ArcGIS Online, so I can actually add these 3 maps straight to my favorites, and they'll show up in my ArcGIS Online content. I can also send this collection of maps to a policy worker or a community organizer, education advocate in the Los Angeles area. They'll get the 3 map titles and then this collection all zoomed in to LA, and they just carousel through the maps as we're doing here. Some other maps that you'll find in this site. The first one is where are households with no vehicle available? Here we are in New Orleans, Louisiana. Most of these maps have national coverage, but they're really interesting when we're zoomed into the city level. And what I really like about this map is that the color represents the percent and the size represents the actual count of households with no vehicle in this case. Clicking on the pop-up, we get even more info that the most common type of household with no cars is often the 1-person household. So that's good to know. Another type of map that I love is this one. Is a 40-hour work week normal? And again, the question, not the same as the legend. The legend is the much more detailed definition of what we're mapping. You can see a really clear pattern here in the Midwest and also up in Alaska. Lots of red, meaning that they're working a lot more than 40 hours. Lots of agricultural workers and truck drivers solving that last mile problem. This map takes advantage of a map style called above and below, which is great when you want to anchor your map around some kind of critical value, in this case 40 hours. We can zoom in and see from this histogram that the average of the counties in this data set is actually 39, but we went ahead and centered our map on 40 because that is the meaningful value where people get health insurance, you get sick time when you work 40 hours a week. That's a hard policy. So our map ought to have a hard cutoff and color that anchors this map around there. Say I wanted to drag these down or up, the map responds in real time. Maybe for whatever reason, I want to center this at 50, say. We can explore the map really, really quickly. I mentioned all these maps are multi-scale, so we've got data for state, county, and tract. So zooming into New York, we'll see another spatial pattern here. A lot of people working more than 40 hours a week in the Manhattan area. Possibly they're working 2 jobs, etc. And the pop-up even tells us the breakdown of men and women. Another type of map that I like is called a relationship map. Have you ever wanted to map 2 different attributes in the same map, but you end up presenting 2 different maps side by side and hoping that the viewer can squint and see the relationship that you want them to? Well, now you can map 2 attributes in one map and get the relationship pretty clearly. Here we have drinkers and smokers in the US, and what I find really interesting are these off diagonals where it's high for one and low for the other. I really, really love this map because it's a map of counties, but actually we can very, very clearly see these state outlines, which tells me that there's probably some state policies at play here. I know, for example, California has very expensive cigarette taxes and Nevada has very cheap cigarette taxes. So we're seeing those state policies play out even though we're looking at a map of counties. Here we've got a predominance map about children's living arrangements. The yellow tracks are predominantly married couple families. Oops, married couple families. So that's the most common type of living arrangement for children in that tract. Red is single female families, blue, single male, and up here in green, we've even got unmarried partner families as the most common type of household for children's living arrangements. The predominance map is great because instead of mapping just one attribute, here we can map 5. And in these pop-ups, we get the full breakdown of the different categories. Building on the concept of a predominance map and taking that one step further, when your categories have some kind of natural order to them, in this case age group, it's often helpful for your colors to also have a natural order to them. So here again, our title of the map is a question: where and at what age are women having babies? And then the legend is where we can do a full description that you might see in your field alias, because that's where this is coming from. Alright, so here we can see that most of the map is blue, meaning in this case women to 25 to 29. In LA it's a little bit darker blue, a little bit older, and up here in Michigan it's slightly younger. When we zoom into a city, in this case San Francisco, we see a lot more purple and even red. The purple is 35 to 39, and red is 45 to 50. So that's interesting. I think I missed the, 40 to 44. There we go. Alright, so those are just some of the maps that you'll find in the Maps for Public Policy site. I want to close on the Resources tab here, where there are all kinds of guides, tutorials, videos, blog posts, ArcGIS Learn lessons, and more to help you be successful creating your own policy maps about issues very important to your community that clearly highlight the opportunity to intervene. And this is all at esri.com/policymaps.